There's a lot happening in the city. Today, there will be there was a vigil, obviously, last night in Black Creek outside Javai Roy's apartment building. Eight-year-old kid. We wake up Saturday morning, find out he was shot in his own bed while cuddling with his mother. His mother was just heroic. How else do you even say it? Talking about this. So that's happening today, a rally against gun violence in the city of Toronto, specifically today at Nathan Phillips Square. Tomorrow, Sankofa Square gets christened. It's been called that for a while. There have been signs everywhere, but obviously heavily contentious to switch it up from Yonge-Dundas Square to Sankofa Square for a number of reasons. And one of the people that have been the most critical of not just the name, but that process of the name is Daniel Tate, and he's with a group called Integrity TO, and you can find them there at integrityto.ca. It's nice to have you in.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Tell me a little bit about tomorrow, and I've laid out the Sankofa stuff earlier, and it's like if people wanted a name change, that's fine. Sometimes it's nice to freshen things up, but your anger with the city stems from what? The process, and then eventually what they settled on more than anything.
Well, the anger, there's many layers to this onion. First and foremost, the average Torontonian never asked for nor wanted this square to be renamed.
Some did, but you're right.
Well,
yeah,
there
was
the
a
vast
conversation
majority
about
didn't, because most Torontonians are concerned about crime and safety and having a well-run city. So this was manufactured, number one. Number two, there was absolutely no public consultations when they promised that there would be public consultations. And so they intentionally violated one of their mandates, was to, if we're going to rename our largest city landmark in the city, our central square, we have to go to the public for consultation, and they intentionally circumvented that. And then, of course, there's the whole issue about the academic dishonesty. Academics were sidelined from the process because it was basically from the get-go, we have to malign Henry Dundas. We're going to assassinate his character, and anybody who's going to defend him will be sidelined from the process, and that's what happened.
Some of this also is the nation of Ghana, like many African nations, though we have a ton of shame, I think, looking to our brothers and sisters in the United States about their slavery. The transatlantic slave trade didn't discriminate, and all countries and all continents participated in owning slaves, and Ghana in Africa was no different.
Well, remember, Canada was also a sanctuary for slaves in the Underground Railroad.
Sure.
Slaves came here because we were a free country. Canada did not participate in the slave trade. And that is another fact that got obfuscated in this entire process. And a lot of people remain befuddled on why we selected a name that emanates from Ghana, from a slave trading tribe, the Akan people. It doesn't make sense, and that's why people are very upset about it.
You're keeping it alive in a way. Many others are still talking about the process because they don't like it, because they don't know what the next process is that might sort of shortchange all Torontonians. It doesn't matter, white, black, Asian, Hindu, Muslim, whatever. The concept is they'll kind of cut the ribbon there tomorrow. You're going. What's your expectation of what you see there when you get there?
Well, it's going to be all pomp and circumstance, and Moist and Chow are going to pat themselves on the back like they did Toronto a favor, but they did the exact opposite. This whole thing was a liability. Taxpayers got fleeced. It was dishonest. The public didn't ask for this, and it ripped away a name that resonates with decades of people who lived in this city, Yonge and Dundas. Like, that's so intrinsic to Toronto culture and heritage, and they just ripped it away without consulting us. But I think one thing that people are going to notice is the sign is going to be up tomorrow. They had to fabricate new signs. Yeah. People who walked by Yonge and Dundas over the last year and a half, it's been signless. It's just been an empty marquee up there. So now they're going to have the marquee, and that cost well into the six figures as well, paid for by us.
The mayor, Olivia Chow, came out publicly, had some criticism for the federal government, not for the first time, about refugee supports and what the federal government's obligation is. It's not a great look to say, for the Carney government to say, we'll give you 26% of your expected cost for refugee support. Is she in the right? I think she is in the right. Do you think she is in the right to ask the federal government to pay their fair share here?
Well, the federal government certainly shoulders the blame for this situation that we're in. They manage the immigration file. And we all know we've had a very leaky immigration system for several years now. We know a lot of people game the system and make fraudulent claims to get here to Canada because they know the taxpayer will subsidize a house, education, et cetera, et cetera. So she's right in that respect, but it's hard for her to cry poor to the Minister of Housing and the feds when Chow herself spends our money in reckless ways. It's if this city was run in a fiscally responsible way, then she'd have a lot more credibility. But the fact is, her administration wastes so much of our money that it reduces her credibility when she's crying poor to the feds.
But it doesn't take the federal government's responsibility away, is what you're saying.
No, it doesn't.
They've got an obligation here, and they're not ready to meet it. You might where I am is I want, and I've seen this bipartisan, Republican mayors, Democrat mayors. I've seen a lot of mayors and governors. They were saying it to the Biden-Harris administration. They're saying it to the Trump administration now. Fix the border. It's a huge election issue. May have been the biggest election issue last year in the United States here. There was one party talking about it, and I would love to see Olivia Chow go to the Carney government and say, here's what I'd like to see you do on immigration. Patrick Brown's done that in Brampton. Some other mayors have done it. Crickets here, and it's a problem.
And that's the core issue. That's why we're getting so much heat from Donald Trump. The federal immigration file is inherently broken. It needs to be completely tightened up, and anybody who's here on illegal grounds or game the system or not honestly needs to be repatriated to their country of origin.
Daniel Tate's with us from Integrity TO. You don't want Olivia Chow to stay as mayor, will you? And you sound like you don't want her to win the next election in 2020. I'm reading the tea leaves here that you don't want her to carry on for another 4.5 years. Will you endorse a mayor? Do you look at you want to know more about the candidates right now? Will your organization put forward a mayor? Will you endorse a mayor that steps forward and says, I want to do it? How do you see it playing out?
Well, first off, I along with thousands and thousands of Torontonians, think Olivia Chow does not deserve nor earn a second term. The first term to this point has been a disaster, in my opinion. All of our taxes are going up, and take a look around. Services and infrastructure are declining. That's a fact. It's her job as the CEO of this city to get that fixed, and she hasn't done it. So that's number one. She does not deserve another term. Now, who's the best person to replace her? Well, there's many different names being bandied around right now. We're about 15 months away to the next election, so we'll have to wait and see who comes out of the woodwork to be the best alternative vision to the current state of affairs. And Integrity TO will be right there. I don't know who we're going to endorse at this stage in the game. It's still early, but we're going to be there. We're going to be on the ground. We're going to be all over to help Torontonians make the right choice.
You got a letter back that I want to talk to you about from the Toronto Public Libraries, and you had an issue with something that was occurring in the libraries. What was the issue, and what was the response that you got from TPL?
Yeah, so this is a very disturbing topic, and it really bothers me greatly. So on Instagram, a lot of people reach out to me. They send me messages. They send me pictures and videos of what's going on in their part of the city. And I started getting all these pictures of homeless people and drug addicts who were congregating by public libraries. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why are drug addicts congregating and doing drugs right in front of the library where kids go? And then people started sending me photos of all these needle collection boxes right in front of public libraries.
Not new ones, but used ones to drop off, or could you get a new one from there?
Used ones to drop off.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, well, why are they placing needle collection boxes at places where children congregate? And it was very disturbing. So I sent a note to the lead of the Toronto Public Library to kind of get an answer on why here, out of all places. I understand there's needles around, you got to collect them, but why at a library? And I got a response. It was a canned response. And it was just the usual jargon. Well, we don't want to make sure that they throw them on the ground, so we want to give them an opportunity where they can safely deposit them. But they didn't answer my key question, which was, why are you attracting people to a library who use opiates? Obviously needles are for fentanyl, for crystal meth. Why are you attracting these people to public libraries that have children's programming to drop off their dirty needles? Out of all the places you could have done it at, I don't know, maybe a supermarket or maybe a city administration building or just a hospital, anywhere. Why a library? And they didn't answer the question.
Well, so they sent you an answer, but you didn't, like, there was no clarification.
Again, it was a canned answer that we set these up as part of the city's quote unquote harm reduction framework, because we don't want needles to be in soccer fields and whatnot, and we have a contracted vendor who goes around and cleans out all these boxes. Because I asked, do the librarians clean out the dirty needles? They're like, oh, rest assured, it's not the librarian's job. We have a contracted vendor. Well, I'd like to know who that vendor is. How much are they getting paid? Because there's needles everywhere. There's vendors who support this needle industry. That's part of this harm reduction framework that I don't believe in, by the way. And we have to peel the layers of what's going on here. Why are there needles everywhere? Why are libraries collecting them? There's more to learn about this topic.
How on the ballot for the next mayor and even potential council replacements does harm reduction have to be? We do have potentially a candidate in John Tory who brought harm reduction here to the city. And so is that the best candidate? Because aren't the Chow people going to go, wait a minute, like, this was your idea. We just followed through on everything you established.
Well, things change, people change, ideas change. And just because you supported something several years ago, it doesn't mean you have to support it going forward. You can look back and reflect and say, hey, maybe we weren't correct in this approach of facilitating drug use with opiate addicts. I want to hear rehab. I want our money to go to rehab. I don't want our money to go to buying more needles, having the government inject more addicts with drugs. It's counterproductive. It's facilitating and enabling a terrible, terrible practice. And people are making money off it. That's a fact. So whoever runs should be very clear that Torontonians are not going to stand for this harm reduction stuff. It's just creating havoc in our city.
What about gun violence? I think we should wrap on that, given what a week it's been, obviously, with the death of this 8-year-old. We had a shooting at Scarborough Town Center yesterday. Police are still looking into that. But again, I worry, Daniel, we have just shrugged our shoulders and we have normalized. It is not a shock when I hear, one man's dead from a shooting at Yorkdale, Scarborough Town. That would have been huge news in the 90s or even 15 years ago.
Yeah, remember the Eaton Center shooting?
Yeah, when Brett Laurie was there. It was a huge story 15 years ago because you're like, that never happens here.
Horrific.
That's so unusual. We know it's a lot more usual than unusual now.
Yeah, well, our leaders should take a big stand and say that we're going to be investing in all the resources that Toronto police need to investigate gun crimes and the source of guns and really attack whoever's importing illegal guns from anywhere. And then we need the federal government to clamp down as well on border security, because obviously a lot of these guns are coming in from south of the border. They might even be coming in through other entry points. So
I feel like you're hearing Chow talk about American illegal guns. You're never going to hear her talk about the Youth Criminal Justice Act. You're never going to hear her talk about dangerous repeat offenders. And I know municipal governments are really limited. They're the last line of defense. But to your point, you could call on the federal government and say, this bylaw, this bylaw, this bylaw, or this law, change it. And they don't do that.
I agree. There's a lot of issues with our Youth Justice Act. It's very lenient, very, very lenient. And some of the crimes, you saw the that horrible story, the kid who stabbed that poor woman in the parking lot who was just shopping. He's underage, but how soon is he going to be back on the street just because he's a youth? Like, we have to look at the egregiousness of the crime, and sometimes you have to charge younger people as adults. Are we doing that? Are we doing catch and release with young offenders? We have to look at the law reforms as well.
We've also decriminalized robbery. You saw the story of a 14-year-old boy, 20 charges, several robberies at stores across Toronto, and he'll get his record expunged. He'll be able to go to university or college, and I think we might be past second chance scenarios when you have 20 robbery charges and you're 14.
Yeah, we're fed up with this. Public safety and law and order needs to be a huge campaign issue for the next mayor.
I'll let you blast. You can go to Integrity TO's website to find out more. Daniel, thanks for the time.
Thanks, Greg.
There's Daniel Tate joining us.